When it comes to the NFL, trash talking is certainly a part of the game, and when the competition is raised even higher, it gets even more prevalent. We're going to talk about it as the Lions get set to prepare against the Bucs. Stay tuned, everybody.
We used to be a team no one respected. We used to be a team no one feared. That was then. This is now.
First victory of the year on the line. Goff's got it. Back, looks, throws, end zone. Yes! Caught!
You know who we are.
10, 5, end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions.
And you know where to find us. We won't be far. We'll be on your front porch waiting for you. We are the New Era Lions. And
we are driven by Detroit.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving in right now. But before we dive in, I just want to say to my loyal fans and subscribers that are coming on back, thank you all for returning to the show. It means the world to me that I have such loyal fans and subscribers. And to those that are tuning into my show for the very first time, I just want to say welcome on in. I hope you all enjoy the content, but even more so, I hope to gain you all subscribers if I've earned and deserved it. And with that being said, to everybody, I just want to say, God bless. I hope you all are having a good day, and let's dive into the show. So, here's the thing, folks. When it comes to pro sports, there is always going to be competition. That's just the very nature of sports in and of itself. Do you or do you not agree? But here's the thing. One of the best elements of sports is when you have competitive players that like to trash talk. Because depending upon how good of a trash talker you are, it can really heighten the game in a sense. Well, I'm going to say this. Some of the best trash talkers are some of the best players, typically. And what do I mean by that? Well, again, you guys all know I'm a historical person by trade. I went to college and have a history degree. And I also love sports. Well, again, if anybody's ever watched professional basketball or documentaries talking about certain players, some of the best basketball players also had some of the best trash talking, a.k.a. Michael Jordan, a.k.a. freaking Larry Bird. They were able to talk trash, and they backed it up on the court with their ability to play like superstars. And that's what really elevates the game, in my opinion, is if you've got someone who can not only walk the walk really well, but can also talk the talk really well. So again, it's one of those things where it's like, listen, if you're going to talk smack, you better be able to back it up on the court or on the field, whatever the case might be. Well, I'm just going to say this right now. The Lions definitely have a player in that regard, and that would be Ceedy Deuce, C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Now, everybody knew when we were signing Gardner-Johnson that he was a guy that was very talented, but he also liked to talk a lot. And I'm not saying it like because he wanted to hear his own voice, but he likes to talk smack. He likes to talk a little bit of trash, which in my honest opinion, there's nothing wrong with that if you can back it up on the field, which I'm going to say this right now. Ceedy Deuce can definitely back it up on the field. Now, I know some people are probably asking if they've, been living under a rock for the last 24 hours, where the hell all this is coming from. Well, I'll explain it. What happened is, I think about a day or so ago, Ceedy Deuce made a comment, and this was the comment. This is how we're going to start this whole video. This is what he said. He was talking about the wide receiver group, the offense, whatever, of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and this is where the comment led to. He said specifically, and this is Ceedy Deuce, he said, "This group probably is one of the better groups we done faced all year. If you give that Tampa group a good QB, that's a great group." Now, the first part of that quote, no problem. It's the second part of that quote that definitely pops an eyebrow, that perks up the ears, that definitely gets one attention. If you give the Tampa group a good quarterback, that's a great group. Now, clearly, that's a shot at Baker Mayfield, who's the starting quarterback of the Buccaneers. And what it means is it's insinuating, at the very least, that from Ceedy Deuce's perspective, that Baker is at least not a good quarterback. It's not necessarily saying that he's a terrible quarterback, but it's saying that he's at the very least not a good one. Now, I'm going to just answer this question because some people might be wondering, well, is it a personal jab? Is it something personal with Ceedy Deuce? I don't think it's anything personal to do with him. More likely, what this is just Ceedy Deuce is expressing his personal opinion about how good Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are. It's not personally attacking Baker Mayfield, but rather it's attesting that in his belief, this could be a great group if they had just a better quarterback. Which, I mean, to a certain extent, to a certain degree, I can't disagree with Ceedy Deuce on this because history actually backs up what Ceedy Deuce is saying. Again, I don't think it's anything personal from Ceedy Deuce. I think it's just him stating as a matter of fact, as a point of record. And let's understand something here. If you go back, and again, like I said, you guys all know I'm a history nut, but who was the quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers prior to Baker Mayfield? It was TB12, Tom Brady, arguably the greatest quarterback of all time. In my honest opinion, he is the greatest quarterback of all time. I don't necessarily like Tom Brady, but I can recognize his talent. And the hell, let's think about it here. When you've been to the Super Bowl half of your career and you've won 7 out of those 10 trips, I'd say you're the greatest quarterback. But I digress. Point of the matter is, Tampa Bay's quarterback prior to Baker Mayfield was Tom Brady. What happened? As we all know, Tom Brady left the New England Patriots, he went into free agency, and in 2020, he signed with the Buccaneers. Likewise, the very first year that Tampa Bay has Tom Brady as their starting quarterback, they go and win a Super Bowl. So part of what Ceedy Deuce is saying is at least to the sense true because, okay here, the very first season that the Bucs get Brady, he takes them all the way to the Super Bowl. That's a pretty impressive feat. There's not a lot of quarterbacks that have won Super Bowls with 2 separate ball clubs. One of them I know is Brady. The other I know is Peyton Manning. That's a pretty prestigious group of names to be in now, don't you think? And if you think about it, in 2020, while Brady led the Buccaneers to a Super Bowl, he led them to an 11-5 record as well, which is certainly better than what the Bucs are doing right now. They barely won their division at 9-8. So it's like, listen, in 2020, the Bucs had a better record, and in 2020, the Bucs had the best way to end a season with winning a championship. But if you go even further into the comparison between the two, take a look at 2020, what Brady put up. He was 401 completions to 610 attempts for a 65.7 completion rate. He threw 4,633 yards, 40 touchdowns to 12 interceptions with a 102.2 passer rating and a 66 QBR. That's a pretty damn good season. You have a 100-plus passer rating, 40-plus touchdowns, 4,500 yards, and a 65-plus QBR. You're doing pretty damn good as a quarterback. Now, take a look at what Baker Mayfield has done this year. Baker Mayfield, 364 completions to 566 attempts, 64.3 completion percentage rate, 4,040 yards, 28 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 94.6 passer rating with a 54.4 QBR. Now, I'm going to say this. Are those stats worse than Tom Brady's? Absolutely, they're worse. There's 12 less touchdowns. There's only 2 less interceptions. The passer rating is almost 10 points lower, and the QBR rating is 12 points lower. So, yeah, it's worse. But it's not like Baker Mayfield had a terrible season. He had a decent season. He had actually a decently good season. 4,000 plus yards, almost 30 touchdowns, almost a 95 passer rating, mid-50s in QBR. That's not bad. That's actually, decently good. So, what Ceedy Deuce is saying, at least, is that when the Bucs had Tom Brady, it was better. Now, that would have been an interesting story in of itself. But what makes this story even more interesting, even more better, is that it wouldn't be a good story if there wasn't a back and forth. Well, here's why we're having this conversation. Because, as we all know, the Lions and the Bucs are getting set to play each other on Sunday. And trash talking is something that goes on in the game. Well, trash talking takes it to another level when you say something on social media, and then the person you're saying it about on social media responds back in kind. So what happened? After Ceedy Deuce made his comment, Baker Mayfield then shot back, and he said to Ceedy Deuce's comment this. He said, I don't think he, and he's referring to Gardner Johnson, really watched film. Gotta do a little more film study. Okay, that's interesting. Because in essence, what Baker is trying to say here is that he's pretty much saying that, Ceedy Deuce has got his facts wrong and that he's not as smart as what he's trying to attest. Because he's trying to say, well, he doesn't watch film. He doesn't watch film nearly enough to make that statement. He's kind of just grasping at straws. So I was like, okay, here, I can't attest one way or the other whether or not Ceedy Deuce is watching film or not, but I can, at least to a certain degree, make a somewhat statement based upon past, facts and data. So I decided to take a look at this. Usually what you do when you're watching film is you're trying to gain up a leg on your opponent, correct? Well, here's the thing. If you do that, you're typically going to have a better ability to play against said opponent. Well, what did Ceedy Deuce say in kind opposite to what Baker Mayfield said? He said, again, I do watch film. Ask the QB before you, my guy. Which he's specifically referring to is Tom Brady. Well, I'm like, here, I can't ask Tom Brady. Tom Brady's probably not going to get involved in this because this is beyond him. He's no longer even playing, and he probably don't even care all that much. But I said, okay, here, case in point. Let's do a little bit of a statistical analysis here, shall we? I decided to go back because, as we know, before Ceedy Deuce got to the Lions, he played with the Saints and he played with the Eagles. Well, the Saints are in the same division as the frickin' Bucks. So, for a good period of time, Ceedy Deuce played Tom Brady on a quite regular basis. So, between 2020 to 2021, so for 2 straight years, Ceedy Deuce went up against Tom Brady 5 separate times. 4 times in the regular season, 1 time in the playoffs. Because in 2022, he went to the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles never played the Bucks that year. Doesn't matter. And in 2019, at that point, freaking Ceedy Deuce was with the Saints and Tom Brady was still with the Patriots. Also, didn't play that year. So I said, okay, 2020, 2021, 5 matchups. I then went back. I checked on both ESPN and I checked on PFF to make sure I had my stats right. In all 5 of those matchups between Tom Brady going up against Ceedy Deuce, this is what Ceedy Deuce gave up to Tom Brady when he was the quarterback throwing. He allowed 27 completions to 40 attempts, which was for a 67.5 completion rate. Only 305 yards, 2 touchdowns to 2 interceptions with an 85.9 passer rating. Now, the only thing out of that looks really good is the completion percentage. The yards, not really all that good. The touchdowns and interceptions, that's 1-to-1. I can live with that. And the passer rating is sub 90. So it's like, listen, Ceedy Deuce actually held his own pretty well against Tom Brady. So based on that output, Ceedy Deuce against Tom Brady, I would say that at least based upon the statistical output, that Ceedy Deuce kind of proved his point that, yeah, he watched film. Because I got to ask this question. How do you beat Tom Brady? Well, you sure as hell don't do it by being lucky. You got to watch film. You got to know what Tom Brady's tendencies are, or in this case were, and you have to be able to read the field and understand, hey, if Tom Brady's going to do this, I need to do that. If Tom Brady's going to do that, I need to respond with this. So again, based upon Ceedy Deuce's own statistical output against Tom Brady when they played, I would say that he watched freaking, Tom Brady's film, that he actually watched film, so that way he would have the best chance against Tom Brady. Now, I would also say and add this too to also kind of counteract Baker's argument here. Consider the fact that Ceedy Deuce has also been to a Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles. Again, I can say this right now. There is no way in hell you are going to be a starting safety for a team that goes all the way to the Super Bowl if you don't watch film. You can't do that. You have to watch film, otherwise you're going to get torn to shreds because you have to see what other teams are doing so that way you can try and gain an advantage. So again, that statement doesn't make any sense. But furthermore, add this on top of that. In 2022, when Ceedy Deuce went to the Super Bowl with the Eagles, he either led or was tied for the lead in the NFL for most interceptions. He had 6 interceptions in 2022. You sure as hell don't lead the league in interceptions with 6 if you're not watching film. You can't be that damn lucky. So for me, it's like, listen, I understand what Baker was doing there. It's like, listen, you guys are about to play a playoff game. Competition's running high. You guys are two competitors. You both like to talk a little bit of smack. But it's like, I think Baker got a little bit in over his head because it's like, listen, Ceedy Deuce wasn't personally attacking Baker, in my opinion. I think, again, he was just making a statement of fact because, like, listen, is or is not Tom Brady a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield? Absolutely. So what Baker was, in essence, thinking was a personal shot was more, in my opinion, just Ceedy Deuce making a statement of fact saying, listen, when you guys had a better quarterback, it was a great group. You guys won a Super Bowl. Now you got Baker Mayfield. He's not a great quarterback. I don't consider him a good quarterback, but he is definitely serviceable. Baker was like, oh, well, he doesn't watch any film, but it's like, take a look at his past record, and it's like, the man clearly watches film because he couldn't be as good as he is if he doesn't watch film. He couldn't have gotten to a Super Bowl if he hasn't watched film. He couldn't have led the league in interceptions for a year if he hasn't watched film. And last time I checked, Baker Mayfield, when was the last time you went to a Super Bowl? Oh, that's right, you haven't even come close. So it's like, listen, I think if we're going to try and do a comparison on smack talking, I think Ceedy Deuce definitely won this one. But I also know this, and this is how I'm going to end this episode. I know that for some fans, they would just like to ask the question, why even start the smack talking at all? Why even trash talk, period? Because the first thing they're going to relate back to, as far as Lions fans are concerned, is when Lomas Brown opened his mouth and made a statement prior to a playoff game, and the Lions got absolutely stomped by the opponent. And now they're feeling like maybe this could potentially be a repeat. Here's again why I don't think that's going to happen. Number one, this Lions team is substantially better than that team in the 1990s that did get beat up, save the running back position. Number two, let's consider the opponent we're playing. Again, I'm not looking past the Buccaneers, but as I've said in a previous episode, I'll put that episode back up at the top, the Lions are getting substantially much more reinforcements than what they had the last time they played the Bucs. And even if the Bucs are a better team than when we played them in Week 6, it's like, listen, we're getting back 7 players from injury that we didn't have in that matchup. We just won a home playoff game against arguably the best NFC wildcard team outside of the Lions in my opponent, the team that was considered the most dangerous in the LA Rams to most analysts' opinion. And on top of that, here's the way I look at it. One of the things that Baker Mayfield is not particularly good at is loud environments and a lot of pressure. He's about to come to Ford Field, which is going to definitely be loud, and the Lions are very good at applying pressure. So it's like, listen, I'm not saying that the Lions are going to necessarily just completely destroy the Bucs. But when I know and I study history trend data, when the home team in the divisional round wins 75% of the time, the Lions are going to have all of these players playing that they didn't have the last time that they played when they were on the road and still won. And we're going to be at home in a divisional playoff round. That to me is just like, listen, I just keep stacking dominoes, and it's like, listen, I'm feeling confident, but I'm not just going to look past the Bucs. It's like, listen, I still consider them a threat. I still consider them someone we have to handle. But it's like, listen, I feel confident enough that the Lions will handle them regardless of what smack talk is being done on the field. Obviously, of course, we'll have to see what happens come Sunday at 3 p.m. But I figured I'd talk about this because this is related to the news of the week, even if it is something that most people would probably not want to talk about or address, but it is news. So, having said that, I just want to say thank you all for watching in another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you liked what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage you all to watch the next episode. I also encourage you all to do one of these 3 things: like, comment, and subscribe. If by chance you subscribed in the past, forgot to do so at the time, or you just subscribed and now had a chance to do so, again, please, please, please subscribe. It really helps me out, and I'm thankful for every subscription that I can get my hands on. But also, I just want to say, if you subscribed in the past and you forgot to do so, and you didn't do it right now, make sure you also turn on that bell notification icon so that way you never miss any more content that I push out. Again, subscription numbers are always going up, but we want to make sure that we also turn on that notification icon so that way you never miss any more content that I push out. Again, it really helps me out, and I'm thankful for every single person that does this. To also help in that endeavor, please share this content with your Lions friends and family members. Share here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere that you can with everybody and anybody that you can. And with that being said, I just want to say to everybody, I hope you all enjoyed the content. I hope to have gained your subscription if I've earned it. And if not, hopefully I'll get you on the next time. But until that time, I just want to say, God bless, hope you all enjoyed the show, and I'll see you all in the next episode.